Did you realize that while there are supposed to be 8 Gods Knights, only 7 were shown at God Valley, meaning that there has always been one missing Gods Knight? That's because Emu's most important Gods Knight has been sailing around the seas this entire time, carrying out one all-important task, guarding the 4th and final road poneglyph, as this Gods Knight carrying the greatest burden of all is of course gifted with even stronger protection from God. The perpetual Omen on his back can be seen from a distance as he sails on his black ship, a man marked by flames. That's right, just as Oda hinted for us all the way back in Egghead Island, the man marked by flames was a government man all along. And he was never just a man with a burned scar, but rather a man literally marked by flames, thanks to carrying Emu's Omen. And we actually know a lot more about this character than you may think, including his Devil Fruit ability. Today we're going to be breaking down why all signs point to the final hidden Gods Knight being the man marked by flames, his upcoming role in the narrative, and even his surprising ability that has made it impossible for any pirates to reach him over all these years. But before we get into it, make sure to subscribe. But first, if you want to use a high quality VPN for less than $3 a month, Surfshark is offering that deal to my viewers right now. Surfshark VPN is the sponsor of this video. And in case you don't know what VPNs are what most people use these days when they go online, as it's a necessity to make sure that your data does not get stolen. And Surfshark in particular can even warn you about scam emails. But the best part is that Surfshark VPN allows you to change your location online to anywhere you want on the globe. And let me tell you, that gives you so much more access to so many movies, TV shows, and live events that are all streaming for free just in other countries. For example, there are anime that are free on Netflix streaming, but only in Japan. But with Surfshark, you can just change your location online to Japan and get free access with the click of a button. And if VPNs sound too good to be true, that's because most of them are pretty expensive. Most VPNs cost about $15 a month, but Surfshark is a world-class, award-winning VPN with over 4,500 servers in 140 locations that is offering my viewers a deal for less than $3 a month. And on top of that, if you follow my link, you can get a 7-day free trial and an extra 4 months free of Surfshark VPN. Just head to surfshark.com/Morge or use code Morge at checkout. Just follow the link or you can scan the QR code below. So that aside, I made a video over a year ago explaining why the final road poneglyph had to be held by a Gods Knight, based on all the clues that we had been given. After all, we knew that the man marked by flames was a mysterious figure and not a prominently known individual, which is why he was only referred to by his visual description, marked by flames, rather than by his name, meaning that it was very unlikely that this man was some former legendary pirate as many had speculated, and certainly not someone like Dragon whose face is infamous around the world. This man had to be someone whose identity was generally not known to the public, meaning logically, every strong pirate and revolutionary should be crossed out. Now, the big clue that we were given regarding the man marked by flames' identity that seemingly confirmed this line of reasoning was Shiryu pointing out that the man marked by flames is likely actually a government man. And specifically, this suggests that this individual had to be a Gods Knight. After all, the Marine Admirals are all already accounted for, and Vice Admirals would generally be too weak to be entrusted with one of the 4 keys to the One Piece. But for a character to be a government man, strong enough to successfully guard the road poneglyph, but simultaneously unknown enough that no one on the Blue Seas even knows their name, all that is left are the Gods Knights. We know pretty much all the other players in the world, but the Gods Knights are the only important group of characters left that are new to us as readers, who we are still learning the identities of, and who the people of the One Piece world also don't really know either. Remember, the Gods Knights are the Celestial Dragon's personal private militia, meaning outside of specific missions that the Celestial Dragons personally demand, they don't really engage in battles on the Blue Seas much. So the fact that people on the Blue Seas can't really identify who the man marked by flames is makes sense. And this even clicks with what we've seen so far of the Gods Knights, which is that there is one missing. We know that there are supposed to be 8 Gods Knights. It's specified that in total there are always 13 figures who are among Emu's chosen, those who he has given the Deep Sea and Deep Sea contracts to. And 5 of these individuals are Gorosei, leaving 8 Gods Knights. However, at God Valley, we only see 7 God's Knights. When Oda has them all grouped together to show the complete faction, we are shown that there is strangely one missing. It finally makes sense now that it's clear that there is one God's Knight who is tasked with an all-important, never-ending mission separate from the rest, to guard the road poneglyph at all costs. However, while all this cumulative evidence seemed to clearly point towards a secret yet to be revealed God's Knight being the man marked by flames, the final revelation that makes this practically guaranteed is the power of Omen, a literal flame that Imu creates to mark the God's Knights with, to grant them additional powers. If a God's Knight already seemed like the most likely candidate based on evidence, something Oda was already even hinting at for us, the Omen reveal pushes it over the top. At the moment, it seems like Omen grants even greater regeneration to God's Knights than they normally have, and it's implied that it even enhances their strength further. While Imu doesn't typically hand out omens, and seems to have the God's Knights rely on their own strength and the added boost that they already get from the pact with Imu, for a God's Knight that has been tasked with an extremely important mission of guarding the final road poneglyph, one that is vital to the survival of the Celestial Dragon's reign in general, well, of course, that particular God's Knight would be given extra protection, a permanent omen that they are blessed with while they sail the seas, ensuring the safety of the final road poneglyph. This is the type of secret that Shiryu hinted at the world government hiding. Not just a road poneglyph of their own, but the fact that the soldier guarding it is being blessed by the powers of God himself, whose existence is a forbidden secret to the public in the first place. This is why everything about the man marked by flames is shrouded in such mystery. This is why even though he is clearly powerful and well known on the seas, no one is aware of his true identity. Because he's not a public figure, he is a secret God's Knight, and his inexplicable flame is a product of God's own powers. And on top of all this, with the likelihood that the man marked by flames is in fact a lone God's Knight who has been marked by Omen, it finally makes so much sense why the only descriptor that characters have given of this figure so far has been that he is quote-unquote marked by flames. Think about it, if marked by flames simply referred to some man who had a burn scar all this time, well then how would individuals have even gotten close enough to see that? Isn't the whole point that ships are sunk by whirlpools long before they get close to the man marked by flames' ship? Meaning that anyone who lives to tell the tale about him wouldn't have gotten close enough to see their facial appearance. However, it makes sense if the term marked by flames was never referring to a man with a burn scar on his face, but rather to literal flames surrounding him, as the only identifying feature that people would have been able to observe from a distance and spread tales of would have been the strange aura of flames surrounding the mysterious figure. That is how the legend spread. The road poneglyph is kept on a black ship that sails around the seas. If you get too close, you are sunk by a whirlpool, but the only thing anyone can identify about the lone figure on board is that from a distance, you can see that he is surrounded by flames. Now, the natural objection I've seen to this argument from the first video I made theorizing that the man marked by flames is a God's Knight is that people struggle to reconcile the notion that the final road poneglyph is in the hands of a world government man who is strangely sailing around the seas with it. But this is actually a completely logical narrative setup, one that is almost necessary for the final war to work. To begin with, of course it follows that the world government would guard one of the 4 road poneglyphs to help prevent pirates from reaching the One Piece. And in general, we are quickly reaching a point in the story where it's implied that all factions will soon be battling it out for the One Piece, so it's almost a necessity for all major factions, including the world government, to have at least one road poneglyph in their hands at this point, and the narrative is overall clearly shifting towards fighting the God's Knights and the Celestial Dragons in general, which means this is simply a natural progression of the plot after having taken the Yonko's poneglyphs. However, where readers seem to be hesitant to believe the man marked by flames is a God's Knight is the logic behind why he would be sailing around with the road poneglyph, instead of the Celestial Dragons just keeping it locked up in Marishua. That's why a lot of people theorize that the man marked by flames may be Skopper Gaban with his burn marks, or some former Rocks pirate, or even a revolutionary like dragon with his tattoos. But a government man, that just seems so counterintuitive. However, the logic behind it is already apparent in the story. If the world government had a road poneglyph, well, keeping it in Marizua would actually be far less safe than keeping it moving on a ship. It has already been established that it is frankly extremely easy for characters to break into Marizua, and the story has shown us over and over again that characters raid Marizua on the regular and go pretty much wherever they please. I mean, Rox, Lafitte, Kuma, Sabo, Bonnie, the list goes on and on. In fact, there has never been a character who has actually failed to break into Marizua or gotten caught. Hell, even the most sacred and most hidden of locations in the Holy Land that no one is ever supposed to go to, the Flower Room, was broken into. Essentially, if the road poneglyph were kept hidden somewhere in Marizua, then Lafitte could have picked up a rubbing for the Blackbeard pirates whenever he wanted. As such, yes, as counterintuitive as it seems, the far more effective way for the Celestial Dragons to keep the road poneglyph safe would be to keep it moving all over the planet on a ship that no one is able to track the location of. And the key here is that if any ships did spot it and attempt to get close, then they would be immediately drowned, as the man marked by flames can create whirlpools. Even now, we can see how effective this has been over the years, as even top-class pirates in the New World really don't know how to go about tracking down this mysterious man marked by flames and his ship. And I also believe it's likely that the man marked by flames' abilities makes his ship and the road poneglyph even harder to get to than one might imagine, as his ability is likely not just whirlpools, but rather power over the wind itself. So in a vacuum, if you were to ask someone what devil fruit would make sense for creating whirlpools, the simplest immediate answer would be the wind Logia. After all, devil fruits can't really manipulate the sea itself, so without the existence of a sea Logia, the most logical option for the power to create whirlpools would be a wind Logia. However, the immediate pushback to that would be that the man marked by flames can't have the wind Logia because Dragon is supposed to have it. This is the assumption that I and many other readers have made over the years. It almost feels like the entire One Piece reader base has collectively sort of agreed over time that yeah, Dragon has the wind fruit. The general belief that Dragon has the wind Logia is predicated on two simple things. First of all, Dragon is always tied to the wind in some way, whether symbolically in terms of what he represents, or in how he speaks, or characters often referencing him and the wind, or even just plain and simple the fact that abnormal gusts of wind always seem to accompany him. From Loketown to Goa Kingdom, this has happened over and over. But beyond that, the second reason that readers tend to assume that Dragon has the wind Logia is simply that the wind Logia has not yet been revealed in the story, and it's just a blatantly obvious missing piece. Oda has already covered pretty much all the prominent elements with the Logia fruits, and he's now going into more of the niche ones, like swamp and snow. And as traditionally wind is one of the core elements in any mythology or fantasy series, the wind Logia has become a glaring missing piece. The fact that we've already had the basics like fire, ice, plants and such, but 1100 chapters in we still have not had a Logia as fundamental as wind makes it feel even more definite that this is simply because Dragon has had it this whole time. These two factors together have made the notion that Dragon has the wind Logia practically become a given, a mantra that we've stopped questioning and just taken for granted, which is likely exactly what Oda wants us to do. As we know, Oda is the absolute master of the art of misdirection, and one of the characters Oda has been most careful about hiding the truth about has been Dragon. Dragon was introduced literally over 1000 chapters ago, and he has strangely still not been shown in a single actual fight, not even a small skirmish. Oda has been holding out on showing this particular character's abilities far longer than anyone else in the story, including all the Yonko, all the admirals, all the old generation, and even Imu himself. There is not a single character in One Piece that Oda has built up for as long while still not showing him in a single fight as Dragon. This is especially strange considering Oda has no problem teasing Dragon's ability as being wind-related literally since his introduction. So at a certain point, it raises the question of why? Why is Oda freely teasing from the beginning of the story that this character has the wind Logia as though it's an open, blatant secret, but at the same time, Oda chooses to actually hold off on officially revealing this character's ability for far longer than any other character in the series? It seems paradoxical. nonsensical. My simple personal guess would be that Dragon's ability is not in fact the Wind Logia. It's something far more significant, and that's precisely why Oda is hiding it for so long, because the reveal is meant to be a surprise. Sure, very early on in the stories, Logias were the coolest and rarest type of fruit, so the possibility of Dragon having the Wind Logia back then was exciting, but we have long progressed past the point where just having one elemental ability means that much anymore. If Oda wanted to do an exciting reveal that Dragon has the Wind Logia, well then the window for that passed a long time ago. At this point, after 1000 chapters of teasing that Dragon has wind powers, revealing that yeah, he has the Wind Logia would kinda just be expected, like ticking off a box, and the ability itself at this point is nowhere near as impressive as other far more powerful fruits that we've been getting reveals of lately. However, the fact that Oda has chosen to be more secretive with Dragon's ability reveal than any other character in One Piece by a wide margin suggests that Dragon's fruit may not in fact be as simple as the Wind Logia. Oda could have been saving the truth all this time because it actually is that big of a deal. Dragon could very possibly have something grander like the Storm Fruit, or potentially even the Rain God Fruit, as there are still more God Fruits to be uncovered, and it does seem like Oda has been waiting till the end of the story to start unveiling the most legendary fruits. If Dragon does have a God Fruit, then it would make a lot more sense why Oda has had to hide his powers for so long, as it is only now in the very end stretch of the story that Oda is even revealing the existence of those caliber of fruits, and therefore Oda simply let the reader think that Dragon had the Wind Logia for most of the story. Now, if Dragon does not in fact have the straightforward Wind Logia, but rather something far grander, then that now leaves a gap for who actually has the Wind Logia. And the Wind Logia is still a relatively strong fruit, meaning Oda likely has saved it for a strong and important character. And so, voila, the man marked by flames becomes the perfect candidate. But first, we are doing a huge spring sale, where you can buy any 2 posters and get 3 free. And I mean any posters, because this month only, we are bringing back all the posters from all of our collections. That's right, you can mix and match any 5 posters from any collection, and when you add them to the cart, 3 of them will automatically be free. And this month only, you can also get the God Trio of posters: Nidhogg, Nika, and Emu, each with their own hidden image inside the poster. If you've been holding off on getting your posters, this spring sale is your chance to get them at a major discount. The spring sale ends in April, and the God Trio posters are going out of production. So get your posters while this spring sale lasts by hitting the link in the description below. Remember, the man marked by flames is unlikely to be any ordinary God's Knight. This is the God's Knight who has been entrusted with the highest responsibility of them all. Sure, some God's Knights have been shown to be weak in one-on-one fights, but it's implied that there is a wide range of strength. Garling and particularly Shamrock should be at least as strong as admirals. Not to mention, it's implied that the Gorosei were all originally God's Knights themselves from across the centuries, who have been promoted to a permanent servant status, meaning God's Knights can be very strong. I imagine that the man marked by flames falls into this category, especially if Emu has given him a permanent Omen. If this is the strongest or second strongest God's Knight alive today, with an obviously extremely important role in the story and huge responsibility granted from Emu himself, then I would not be surprised if Oda gave him the Wind Logia, a clearly powerful ability that you would expect an admiral level character to have. And if the man marked by flames does have the Wind Logia, then so much about his lore suddenly makes sense, as well as why it would have been so impossible for anyone to get to the road poneglyph over all these years. It wouldn't just be the fact that the man marked by flames can create whirlpools to sink ships. Command over the winds in general would allow the man marked by flames to sail faster than any other ship and in any direction he so chose at any time, making him impossible to catch. Even aerial attacks by characters that can fly would be disrupted by the wind. That's why this figure has been so elusive and such a mystery over the years. The Wind Logia makes him practically an untouchable ghost on the ocean. It also makes sense why Emu would have absolute trust that pirates would never be able to catch him. If the man marked by flames' ability was just whirlpools, I don't think that that alone would be good enough security to fend off any and all pirates. But with the Wind Logia, he would be truly impossible to reach on the seas. A ship that can sail away faster than anyone else in any direction it chooses, that can sink anyone that manages to get even remotely close, and that can blow away anyone who tries to approach from the skies. This would be the ultimate guardian of the final road poneglyph. So let me know in the comments below if you believe the man marked by flames is the final God's Knight, and if he secretly has had the Wind Logia all along. And if you enjoyed this video, then definitely like and subscribe. And if you want to hear a bit about my expectations for this character, then you can listen to my weekly podcast that just dropped by becoming a member or by supporting me on Patreon. Link in the description below.